All right, welcome to a very special episode of Pistons of Fury. Okay, so in this episode, we are embarking on a new adventure with the Mustang. So one of the things we're going to be doing, we're going to be doing a lot to this car aesthetically, and from a design perspective, this is really going to, to me, this is kind of the final expression of what this car is and what it will be and what it represents. And not to get too philosophical about it, but it's just something different that I've been thinking about for a long time. I've been doing a lot of research, looking at a lot of pictures and ideas from different parts of the world, different car cultures, and I think I have the aesthetic direction nailed for this car and in terms of what I want to do with it. So I don't know how to position this, but it's going to be somewhere in between JDM, historic Trans Am racing, and a little bit of modern car culture, all mixed in and applied to a muscle car, Mustang. So one of the things I really like about old school muscle cars is, they have a lot of their own style elements, like the little chrome bits, the attention to detail, the body lines. That's all great, and I'm going to keep all that, and I want to accentuate that if possible. One of the other cool things that happened back in the 60s is a lot of these cars, Mustangs specifically, and the Camaros and things like that, they were all raced in the SCCA series and the Trans Am series. So these were like real life race cars. You go into the showroom, you do some mods to the car, you throw some livery on it, and you go racing and you win some races. And this happened. So there was a lot of famous Mustangs. Carroll Shelby put together a whole bunch. There were, several others that were raced independently, not by Shelby. And actually one of those cars, which I'm going to throw up here, all over the screen in the video. This is kind of like the Trans Am inspiration for this car. It happens to be a vintage burgundy Mustang coupe, which is actually what this car is, although I'm not repainting it, but that's going to kind of set the baseline for the Trans Am, influence for it. All right, so that's the Trans Am piece of it. Now, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in JDM culture. I mean, you guys have probably noticed that I have like tuner style rims on the car, but they're tuner style in the way that they're like BBS knockoffs basically. So BBS are actually, the BBS LM rims are actually pretty timeless, and they go with a lot of the older body lines. They've been around for a while, so I knew they would work. That said, there's also some cool stuff going on in the tuner world. You've probably seen the Mighty Car Mods episode or special where they did the JDM Street Cred VW Golf. One of the cool things they did in that was what they called manga bombing, which was just ripping pages out of a manga comic book and pasting them on one of the fenders, and now that's kind of taken over and it's its own thing. You can look on Instagram, look on internet, search Google Images, whatever, and you can find examples of what people have done with manga bombing. So what I want to do is not rip off their idea, but I want to put an American twist on it and actually integrate it into the Trans Am aesthetic that I'm going to apply to this car. So the livery I'm going to apply is very much in line with what you saw in that picture, the old school Mustang, just like mine. But what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to throw up another picture here in the video, and this is just something I've mocked up in Photoshop, and I am going to actually use Marvel comic books. And I'm going to have four different places on the car where a number circle will be, just like Trans Am style, so the hood, the trunk, and the two doors. And behind each number is going to be a collage of a different Marvel character. I grew up reading comic books, my kids read comic books, so this is just something I've been thinking about, and I kind of want to use the Marvel comics as the background for some of my livery on the car. So we're going to call this Marvel Bombing. So here I actually have a few, these are called Marvel Essentials, and I ordered these off of Amazon. And the cool thing about these is they're really cheap because they're basically just reprints of older Marvel comic books. And the cool thing about them is that they're black and white. So, they're cheap, they're not collectible, they're really just, if you want to find the story of X-Men and read all the originals without having to buy the collectible version, this is what you buy. So it's just a giant volume of black and white comics. So what I'm going to do basically is go through, find the characters that I want, pull out pages that are lighter in color because the livery on my car behind the number circle needs to be light because in the classic version of this car it was white. So that's the idea, that's marble bombing. And then one of the other things I'm going to do, as you probably saw in my mock-up that I posted up here, is I'm going to apply some livery, some lettering on the back of the car, Pistons of Fury Racing Co. And then I'm also going to throw back to the Coons Ford dealership, which I believe is out of Maryland or Delaware, that actually sponsored that original Trans Am racing car. So I'm going to throw their logo on the front fender, and I'll have the little crown tie in to the number on the door. So first step in this is I have these new pastels. They're my wife's, but they're basically like chalk, different colored chalk. So what I'm going to do is map out just some of the initial ideas on the door and the rear fender, and I'll get started that way just to make sure I like it and I like how it looks. And then once I have that done, I'm going to erase that and start setting up my measurements for the actual marble bombing and the paint I'm going to be applying. And as we go through that, I'll tell you about the materials and stuff I'm going to be using. So really excited, been thinking about this for a while, so let's get started. Alright, so I've got the side of the car all wiped off, the chalk all gone. Well, most of it, some of it's still embedded in the paint permanently, so that's just going to stay like that because it's an old car and the paint is crap. So waiting for that to dry, but basically how I'm going to apply this is I've got marked off the exact midpoint of my driver's side window, and I'll do the same for the passenger side when I do that. So I'm going to use this midpoint to center the circle. I think I'm probably going to come about 1.5 inches down from the top, which should also put me about 1.5 inches up from the bottom. Circle is going to be 18 inches in diameter. From my best estimation, looking at the Trans Am cars and how they did it, it kind of takes up most of the door, and 18 inches is a good diameter for that. So that's what I did for my chalk. I liked how that looked. So yeah, what I'm going to do now is need to wait for this to dry for a minute, but then I'm going to reapply what I hope will be a perfect circle with another chalk outline just to give me a working area, and then yeah, and then we'll get into what we do next. But while I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm going to go select some of the pages. For the driver's side door, I think I'm going to go with Wolverine. So we're going to do Wolverine. Oh, I forgot to mention the 4 characters I'm going to do for the car. So Wolverine, Punisher, Ghost Rider, and then I'm going to pull from the X-Men volume that I got. I'm going to pull some female characters because you gotta represent. It's 2017. Yeah, so that's going to be the 4. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the placement of the other ones, but I will figure that out. Right now, I'm still waiting on the other 2 books, but I've got enough to get started. I have Wolverine and X-Men, so we'll see how it goes. Alright, what's up guys? It's the next day. I've got everything planned out, or not planned out, but I've got everything kind of laid out what I'm doing here. So I've got the comic pages selected. I made this kind of template out of paper that I kind of cut out. I think I showed you guys that before. I've got glue. So what I'm using is stuff called Mod Podge. You can find this in like Michael's craft store or whatever. It's like for crafting, but this is the outdoor version. Got this little applicator brush. So basically the process is going to be like map it out on the car, get the circle identified kind of right down there, so I know like the boundaries I'm working in, and then once I have that in place, I can start placing some of the comics. I don't know if I'm going to use tape because the paper's so thin on these things that it might just peel off, so not really sure if that's going to work. So I think what I'm going to do is get the circle mapped out, get the comics kind of roughed into place. Some of the edge ones I'm going to have to cut the corners so I don't go outside my circle bounds, and then I think I'll just start the glue application. So I also have, let's see, I picked up this glue bottle kind of thing that has a roller. I don't think I'm going to actually use the bottle piece of it, but I am going to use the roller to get it nice and flat. So that's what I'm going to do there. And then as far as paint, I'm just using standard like acrylic enamel. Oh, you can't see that. Like acrylic enamel from Ace. So I've got satin black, then I have safety yellow, which is the closest I could get, and it's a gloss. So I think what I'll do is, I don't know if safety yellow is the yellow I want to go with. I might end up mixing some black into some yellow and creating like a little bit of a more like gold or mustard kind of yellow. So I don't know, we'll see when I get to that. That's like definitely not phase 2, but it's like a later stage in the process. First thing, I want to get the application on the door done, and then possibly the application in the trunk. So the way it's going to work out is Wolverine goes on driver's side door, X-Men goes on the trunk. I actually just got the Punisher volume in the mail, so I actually have to go back and pick out some pages from that. That's gonna go, I think, on the hood. And then the last thing we'll have to do is the other door on the other side, the passenger door. So that will be Ghost Rider whenever Ghost Rider decides to show up. So I'm gonna get set up here, probably do some time lapse just with the setup and the measuring because it's kind of boring. And then we'll get into applying it, see how it goes.
Alright, so I got the rear deck lid done, so this one's the X-Men. And I've got this this template thing placed on top just so you can kind of see the final vision, right? So something like that, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll actually do it like 45 degrees. So maybe we'll do something like that. I don't know yet. My template's a little poorly cut out and not the right size, so basically what's going to happen is I'm going to come here with a nice inch of black paint, come around the edge so I cover up the unevenness on the edge and any glue that kind of came over, so no big deal there. Yeah, and then the side, that's all Wolverine right there. I definitely yeah, I definitely just glued things to my car. That definitely happened. So yeah, that's the first time I've ever done that. Interesting. So I need to wait for this stuff to dry. There's some bubbles and maybe some ridges where the paint kind of, not the paint, but like where the pages come together. So I'm gonna let the base coat dry, the adhesion coat dry, and then I'm gonna come back and take that Mod Podge stuff and go over it on the top, a couple coats. I want to make sure there's no way that any kind of moisture or anything can get through. Once I've got the top coats done, then I'll come through and do my paint work on top of that. So once I do that, I will clear coat on top. Everything should be fine once I do that, but no moisture can hit this until I get all that stuff done. So what I think I'm going to do now is actually move on to this rear quarter and do some lettering. I have to go print some of that stuff out to get my lettering right, and then take some measurements about how big I want it and things like that. So that is what's up next. Alright, so I'm back. It is a couple days later, middle of the week, weeknight. It's a good thing I have these self-imposed deadlines, or else I probably would not be out here. I'd be on the couch watching some other YouTube car shows. So here's where we are. I've got my 2 circles done. I've got the trunk and the driver's side door. What I've done here is these are adhered to the car. The underlying glue is dry. I did a coat of the Mod Podge glue on top, which is still a little bit sticky. So I need to figure out what I'm going to do with that. I think what I'm probably going to do is going to be a combination of clear, well, I'm definitely clear coating it, there's no question about that, but I've got to do the number artwork on top and the circle that goes around the perimeter, and then I may even do a coat of resin, like resin that you use with fiberglass to do fiberglass work, but without the fiberglass. So just do the fiberglass resin, because I know that dries rock hard, and I know it will protect this. My biggest fear is this getting scratched or something and then water getting under the paper. I don't mind so much it getting weathered or patinaed, anything like that, but I don't want to, I can't have water getting under the paper, so that's my only concern. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to continue with the artwork. I'm going to do the artwork on top, and then we'll figure out how to protect it over that. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to do my lettering artwork. So I've got some paper taped up here. I'm going to take that off, and basically how this is going to work is I'm just going to throw a line down, lay some masking tape to kind of give me my top and bottom. So I've got my spacing for the letters, keep the line straight, and then I'm gonna basically mark on the masking tape where my letters begin and end, and I'm gonna freehand the letters. I'm gonna do it first in chalk and then come back and paint over that. And what I'm gonna be doing is I have some Rust-Oleum acrylic enamel, not acrylic, oil-based enamel, which I'm just gonna paint right on top of this. No primer or anything, so my hope is that in not prepping the surface, that the paint will actually naturally weather a little bit. Undecided if I'm going to do a clear coat on top of this or not. We'll see how it comes out. If it's terrible, I kind of don't know what I'm going to do, because it's not like I can sand it off and start over. So I kind of have one shot to do this, one shot to get it right, to do freehand painting on my car, not mess it up. Yeah, so this should be fun. Yeah, so I'm gonna get started doing that, throw you guys in time lapse for a little bit, and just see how it goes. I'll stop if there's anything of note.
All right, what's up, guys? Little recap, because if I'm thinking about it right, this episode has been on time lapse for a really long time. It's just a lot of tedious kind of work. So, where we're at is, let's see, I've got made some pretty good progress actually. So the back lettering is done. That last piece was me adding some of the highlights, or not highlights, but shadow under the word to make it kind of pop a little bit. Overall takeaway is I would probably use and recommend using automotive grade paint for this. I'm using Rust-Oleum, just standard Rust-Oleum oil-based enamel. It's, with the exception of the black, it's pretty watery, so it's pretty light. The white I had to do a couple coats, which there's a lot of brush strokes now. But it kind of fits in the theme with the patina and the DIY aspect of the car, so I'm not super worried about that. My Marvel Bomb graphic here came out pretty well. I'm actually pretty pleased with this. I've still got to figure out how I'm going to seal that. Make sure I don't get water under the paper there, but you know, I've got the Coons inspired crown and the number 1, so that is all good. I like it. I like how it came out. Definitely let me know what you guys think about this. My plan for this was always do it this way, kind of fulfill the vision I had in my head, see if people liked it, see if I liked driving it around, if it wasn't like embarrassing or annoying or whatever. So I'm going to do this on the rest of the car too, but this is the first one that's kind of almost complete. Still have a little bit of more detail work to do. I need to highlight the crown and probably do another coat of yellow or another 2 coats. But that's basically the look. I think it really came out well with the comic behind it, and that was actually the darker one. That was Wolverine, so that was a little, I couldn't find the white pages. I don't know if I'm going to get to the other one in this episode, just because this episode I know is running long. I've been working on this all week, so it's a lot of video content. And then I actually started on the Coons Ford, what would have been a sticker on an older car, or it would be a decal on a newer car. Pretty sure the original version of this Coons Racing Ford would have been hand painted like this, so sticking to the original. I need to wait for that black to dry, and then we'll finish that. So yeah, this entire endeavor here is it's most likely going to be a multi-episode process. I'm thinking it's probably going to consume, I mean, ideally I'd like to have it done the next episode, but just the way this stuff is going and me having to actually put in some time during the week, you know, it's looking like it's going to take probably another 2 episodes to get it done. So I'll try to keep it interesting, try to keep the angles different and stuff like that. It's kind of tough with this kind of thing. I mean, you know, painting cars, if you watch any of the guys that kind of undertake painting their own cars in episodes, it tends to just drag on. You know, we're doing this in real time and posting the content. So anyway, I think that's where I'm going to leave it, this episode. Yeah, if you liked the video, please throw me a like. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the use of the comic books, the Marvel bombing, as I'm calling it. Let me know what you think about the look of the car, where I'm going, any ideas, feedback, positive, negative, whatever. I want to hear it. So yeah, thanks for watching, and throw me a like, subscribe to the channel. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.